Hello, this is Cityscape, a regular vodcast featuring people, places, and ideas that impact Livonia. I'm Dan West with the Livonia Chamber of Commerce. Today we spent time talking to a Livonia native who's in his third decade as a recognizable voice for radio, sports, and talk shows here in the Metro Detroit market. Veteran radio personality Sean Baligian grew up in Livonia. After graduating from Stevenson High School, he studied at Schoolcraft College, Eastern Michigan University, and Specs Howard Broadcasting School. He started his broadcasting career at a radio station in Toledo in 1995, and later dove into sports as a talk show host and calling college football and basketball games. He came home to the Detroit market in 1998 to call college hockey games on WJR, and then moved to sports talk radio station WDFN as a regular show host. From there, Sean's career involved covering hockey for Michigan high schools to the National Hockey League, TV sports analyst for Fox 2, becoming a Heisman Trophy voter, and hosting sports talk shows for several radio stations across the state. Today, the father of two continues to multitask in his work duties with news and sports talk on shows at WJR, currently with Paul W. Smith, and broadcasting Wayne State University football games and working for the TV high school sports show State Champs. It is great that he can find time out of his busy schedule to join us. Sean, thank you for joining us.
Nice to see you again, Dan. How are you, buddy?
Not bad, not bad. Glad you found some time, man, because reading your resume, you're awfully busy. So.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things, when you love what you're doing, it doesn't seem that busy. It's this fall, though, I decided for the first time in a long time, I'm going to slow down a little bit. You know, age is catching up a little bit. You know, I'm 51 years old now, and it's time to have my weekends back in a certain regard. My Sundays in particular. You know, I haven't had Sundays off legitimately since 1995, so I'm enjoying that. I'm going to enjoy that.
Well, with the Lions games, you don't have to analyze it after the game anymore. Just watch it and that's it.
You got it.
What do you remember most about growing up as a kid here in Livonia?
My neighborhood was the best neighborhood. It really was. I grew up at 7 in Merriman on a street called Sunset, and I'll tell you how much we loved our neighborhood. Me and a couple of the guys that I grew up with still keep in contact, see each other 2-3 times a year. And almost every time we see each other, our time together includes going back to our old neighborhood. And just, you know, whether it be riding our bikes, driving our cars through it, sometimes walking through the neighborhood, always going down to Coolidge Elementary. I mean, so many just great memories there. You know, this was a time, Dan, when before the advent of the internet and computers and games, there were kids playing outside everywhere. So that's the thing that I remember most about 7 in Merriman, just the kids everywhere, you know, and we played every kind of organized and unorganized sport you could think of. Just a lot of great memories.
Tell us what got you interested in a career in broadcasting.
You know, like so many other kids, I wanted to be involved in sports. You know, in particular, I wanted to be a professional athlete, but in my early teens, reality hit me that I stink. And I'm not going anywhere in regards to being a professional athlete. So, you know, my mindset was, what's the next best thing? And I always tell young people that want to get into this business, I use the analogy of a tree. Think about the tree trunk, but then the branches go off in so many different directions. You could do numerous things. And so I've kind of practiced what I preach in that regard. You know, I've done a little bit of everything. I was fortunate to do some writing, television, radio. And so, yeah, to me, it's the next best thing to playing sports. It's really been a blessing to do this for so long now.
Looking at your resume, you clearly put in a lot of hard work. Talk about how you developed that work ethic and what it's meant for you in developing your career.
Dan, I'm glad you asked me that question because it allows me to honor my father. My father passed away a few months ago. He's the hardest working man I've ever known. Former police officer, and 100% work ethic was something that he stressed, and that's something that stayed with me my lifetime, and I've passed that on to my kids as well. You know, you got to give your best every time you're out there. You know, find something that you love to do, and if you love to do it, well, then you're cheating everybody involved unless you don't, you know, put in the time and give your best. So yeah, a tip of the cap to my dad. That was something, you know, he's from that old school, and being a police officer, that was something he was like, you know what, you work your tail off. But I tell people this all the time. I'll tell you the same thing, Dan. When you love what you're doing, I don't feel like I've worked for 26 years. I really don't. I've been so blessed to do what I've done, and, you know, do things like this with you, and so it's pretty cool, man.
More importantly, condolences to your family as you cope with that.
Thank you.
Going back to your early days at WDFN, before social media, one thing that you did is you constantly responded to listener emails. Talk about how that became a focus for you.
You know, I always thought that I wanted to be approachable. You know, I'm just a normal guy like you, like anybody else here and everything. And my mindset always was, if Dan West in Livonia takes the time out of his busy day to send me an email, the least I can do is reciprocate. That was just always something. And it's interesting that you bring up the social media aspect, because the one thing that I've noticed since the advent of Twitter and Facebook and things like that, you have less of even that email interaction. And more often than not, we could disagree in an email, but we would disagree civilly. Now everybody wants to show how cool they are and how internet tough guy they are and everything. And I'm not the biggest fan of social media. I look at it, it's a necessary evil for me and something that I have to do because it's my job, but I'm not a fan of it because of that. I always liked having one-on-one conversations, and even if it was somebody that didn't like you or didn't like your stance on something, more often than not, you could walk away at least having a civil conversation. And those days, sadly, that doesn't happen much any longer.
Well, social media, you write for the likes and the audience, as opposed to an
100%.
email is more of a one-on-one relationship building.
Yeah,
effort.
it was always personal, and you know, it made a lot of great, I guess you could say, pen pals. You know, over the years, we would just exchange emails and, you know, hey, how's the family? And guys that you hadn't heard from and everything. But slowly that went away. And, you know, now, boy, I don't know about you. I could go days without checking my email. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot I have an email, because it's all about texting now. It's all about, you know, sending messages, private messages, DMs, whatever the case may be. But yeah, that was very important to me. If somebody took the time out of their day, the least I could do is answer that.
Well, just know that it was recognized by those who did appreciate the
Oh, thank
response you'd give back in those days.
Thank you.
Tell me some of the funniest stories you've encountered while interviewing somebody.
You know, Mike Babcock, there was one time that Mike Babcock came on with us, of course, the former Red Wings head coach, and he was in the midst of a hunt. And it was funny because we were in the break, and he called during the break, and he said, you know, Sean, I'm sorry, I totally forgot that we were supposed to do this interview. And I was like, Coach, you can reschedule it. It's no big deal. And he was like, no, let's do it. You know, let's keep it quick, not the whole 15 minutes and everything. I said, great. So he's whispering because he's in the middle of a hunt. He's literally in the middle of a hunt. And then all of a sudden you hear quack, 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 right? I kid you not. It was like something you would see out of a cartoon. You hear all these ducks, and he was like, all right, we'll catch up soon. Bye, click. So my guess is, I don't know this definitively, but my guess is it was a successful hunt. But it was funny. I was working with my old partner, Tom Kowalski, and there was like this moment of silence, and we just burst into laughter. You know, just live radio, ladies and gentlemen. You know, so that's one that definitely sticks in my mind. And you know, sometimes you get guys mad at you, and you know, you've had some guys hang up on you and stuff like that. But more often than not, Detroit's been really blessed to have a lot of classy athletes. And much like we were talking about earlier, you can disagree on things, but at the end of the day, you know, it's civil and everything. So we've been really blessed to have a bunch of athletes like that come through our town.
So, well, Sean, I thank you for your time. I appreciate coming out and spending some time with us. It's
Always
great
a pleasure,
to hear your story.
buddy.
And many, many more good years, and we'll listen for you on the Paul W. Smith Show and WJR.
Thanks a lot. Best to you, Dan.
So that's all the time we have for this episode. We'll see you next time here on Cityscape.